Okay, I will start off saying, with crowdfunding, there's a whole lot of different wheels you have to look at. Um, if you're a complete nobody and like it's your first project, I wouldn't suggest diving into tiers that have like printing stuff set up. Just have a very low threshold campaign to gauge people's interest in whatever content you're offering. Heck, if you can go even lower than 500, I'd say give that a shot. Because once you add the printing stuff into the mix, that means you have to have a lot more hats on. For instance, depending on whatever state you live in or country, they either have a more robust printing system or they might not. You might have to make some stuff from the ground, up. And sometimes when you're thinking about the printing stuff, it's like, okay, how much do they want to for per page? And then if you're doing a comic, you got to make sure you have enough of those Gemini mailers for to cover, the cost of however many people you have to ship things out to. You have to consider the postage, where you can ship to feasibly. So that's the reason why whenever I'm backing campaigns and I can get the digital option, I usually will, because there's a whole lot of stuff I can go into, say somebody from Europe shipping to the US, or somebody from the US to shipping to Europe or anywhere beyond. An advantage that sometimes with book Kickstarters or Indiegogos that you can have is if you can offer your book through, Kindle's programs or Amazon's like the direct publishing program where they print the book out and then send it somewhere. You can take advantage of the various regions that Amazon is in. I mean that is definitely one big key factor there. But that's also the reason why even for my own project I'm still learning about how I want to go about printing stuff. That's the reason why you won't see me put up a Indiegogo or Kickstarter at the moment, because I don't have really a library of stuff. And that's another thing. Like if you've already done a couple of Kickstarters or Indiegogos, always have a digital option. Always have a a kickback option where the people can catch up on your work. If you have an entire library worth of stuff, always offer a physical option for that, and always offer a digital option for that as well. Because as you're gaining more people, or more people that are interested in looking at your work, it's always a good idea to have your whole entire backlog on the table as well. It's just something I've seen that's pretty effective with other projects. Let's see. What's another big thing? Yeah, if you're just starting out and you don't know how your stuff is going to hit, maybe even start through other digital platforms first. An example is Arcaven Comics, because they're allowing people to come in and like, hey, do you want to set up your comic and we'll host it on the site? That's one way of doing it. You can build momentum through web serials, like especially if you have the writing and the artwork combination going for you. Then yeah, like start a simple 4-panel comic strip. There's no shame in that. Depending on how you want to go, you can start off small and then work towards something. I mean, that's the reason why I pay attention to some of the comic book serials. I'll list a few of them below. It's just, to give the more people eyeballs on them, and just to remember myself to bookmark them. Really, there's no shame starting off smaller. Like, if you are an artist and you do want to produce some stuff, maybe just make your comic, black and white with the cover page colored. Because, again, a lot of manga do that. Like, they'll have a handful of pages that are colored, and then the rest of it's in black and white. It does cut down on certain things, yes, but if you're just starting off, you might want to just have people latch on to what you're offering first, and then you can get fancy later once you have more resources, or if you up your skill level. Again, there's no shame in just having a simple black and white comic. A lot of stuff, even in newspapers when I was a kid, they didn't always have color to them, and that's fine. you just got to think of whether or not are you going in this as like this project as a team, or are you like a one-man band that's going to have to wear multiple hats. So that way you don't bite off more than what you can chew. Again, that's the reason why I'm not going to be publishing my books, physical or regular digital format beyond the blog until 2023. Because you got to have a finished series first before you're going to publish it. I mean, to me, that's just my personal preference. And, Nick Cole does give good advice. Make sure you do have a couple of books ready in the pipeline, so that way when you do publish on Amazon or somewhere else, you can have like a buildup of backlog. So while you have that going on, you can get the rest of your books finished. And I know this is mostly from a regular book standpoint, but it can also work for the comics as well. If you start off as, like, say, with a web serial, you can eventually have enough in your backlog to create, like, say, a volume 1 and then a volume 2. I've seen a fair amount of them go this route. Have I caught up with a lot of them lately? No. To be honest, like, with my own schedule, that's the reason why even just taking a break to do this is like, whoop, here you go. Here's a quick little vid. But it's all, a lot of it is pre-planning. Like, you gotta know what kind of goal you want. So that's why maybe some first-time campaigns, if they do nothing but digital, you can cut out a lot of the guesswork with the printing initially, and then just try to measure how much people are interested in whatever mishmash or wheelhouse you're offering. That, and you can kind of test the waters, develop some marketing skills. Because again, if you're going the indie route, you'll have to wear a lot of different hats. And even though traditional publishing does have a lot of the marketing stuff behind them, it's mostly marketing based in, ideology. We've all seen that. So yes, even though they have some built-in systems, a lot of traditional publishing isn't really a kingmaker anymore. When I was listening to Niemeyer's Final Fantasy Tactics stream, they started going over who the big sellers were. I think in it was like the late 70s to about like the mid 80s or late 80s, and a lot of it was like Stephen King, Tom Clancy. Who else was it? Let me remember. Oh yeah, Danielle Steele, like maybe a little bit of Michael Crichton, but it was like a handful of the same, like, say, 10 to 15 writers that kept showing up in those lists. Because at the time, traditional publishing, they had a very rigid way of doing everything. That's the reason why you found people trying to break off and create other independent presses that eventually, grew into say like Bain Books and things like that. But when it comes to a lot of different projects, yeah, you have to stop and think. It's not just getting the writing down. It's not just getting the artwork down. You'll have to think about the general distribution of stuff. How many mailers will I need? How many people I'm going to have to send this to? Do I have any overseas customers? What kind of level of shipping am I going to use? What kind of places can help you facilitate that? Because there are a couple of third-party fulfillers that can help you out. I think Trekker uses, what was it, Black Box. So if you don't have your own kind of shipping system down pat, yeah, you're gonna have to do research into who you want to use and why, and who's balances between affordability and basically fulfillment. Like, can they actually fulfill what you need on time, or at least within a very timely manner? And also, the reason why a lot of people don't do November and December, because think of how many packages are just going through because people are trying to catch up for Christmas. You're not going to be able to ship too much stuff out reasonably during the months of November, but especially December. December becomes a shipping cluster. you know, where our system gets pretty hectic, even if you're using FedEx or UPS, because they are bringing in so many different packages to try to make it for that Christmas deadline, you know, and you don't always make it for that deadline. It's the reason why I didn't get anything shipped out, like personally, like from any areas after, say, December 5th, because I didn't want to be part of the overloaded waiting for stuff system. You just never can tell. But take whatever little steps you need. Like, don't launch your projects until you're legitimately ready, or you can foresee at least a little bit of what might come of the whole shipping process. Because really, I think that's the one of the bigger hurdles for most projects, is they just don't realize, like, oh wait, I have 100 backers and X amount of fees, right? It's like, but how many of those backers wanted the physical level of items? And then you got to think, okay, then how do I want to ship these things to these backers? It's a lot for a first time project, you know? So don't beat yourself up too much about it. Just launch when you feel like you're ready, rather than just like, oh, I want to, basically make oodles of money. It's not going to happen usually with a first time project. I've seen most projects, like if you don't know who the person is and you're just being displayed on the art or some of the writing alone, they could probably get up to, say, like 1,500 usually, or at least somewhere in that ballpark, especially if they gauged it with a low $500 threshold. And some of these projects, what they have done is they want to gain some money to see how much it would take to ship things, but they already have the product pretty well in hand and finished. Again, that's another way you can do it. You can preload a lot of the stuff and then just see what you could do to lessen the shipping costs. Again, it's all up to the creator and their team, if they got one, to you kind of pre-plot a fair amount of stuff. So if you think you have a good angle on it, I would say go for it. Launch yourself and see what can come of it. I'm trying to remember that one quote. I think it was mostly targeted towards video games, but it was the whole idea of, a late game can be perfected, but once you launched, the initial launch might overshadow anything else you might do to improve the game, because there's only so many what was it? There's only so many things like No Man's Sky that gets a legitimate like redemption arc. So yeah, guys, it's okay if you just slow down and take a little bit of time, take a moment to breathe, and try to figure out, okay, what is my focus for this project. Have a good day, everybody.